G'day! This is the Ford Ranger Sport. It's a new variant in the range, so today we're going to see where it fits and drive it on-road and off to see if it's the one you should buy. Before we get into it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the Car Sales channel and give us a comment with your thoughts on the new Ranger down below.
The Sport sits between the volume-selling XLT and flagship Wildtrak, and that's why we're testing it, as Ford has a sneaking suspicion it might become the most popular Ranger variant. Pricing starts at $63,690 before on-road costs, but selecting the 3-litre V6 turbo diesel adds $3,000 to that. Our test car also has a couple of other options that I'll get to, which brings the as-tested price to $68,765 plus on-roads. There's a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty and servicing will cost you a reasonable $1,316 over the first 4 years.
Right, so how do you identify a Ranger Sport? Well, there's dark exterior highlights, especially here around the front, LED headlights, 2 front-mounted tow hooks and 18-inch alloy wheels. It's here we also find the first of our options. For just $500, Ford will replace the standard all-season tyres with Goodyear Wrangler All-Terrains, which seems like a pretty good deal if you're planning to head off-road. Another option is $675 for Prestige paint, which in Fordland is any colour other than white. Here under the bonnet is one of the biggest changes for this new generation Ranger, the availability of a 3-litre turbo diesel V6 producing 184 kilowatts and 600 Newton meters.
A 10-speed automatic is the only transmission available, and you now have the option of running it in 4-wheel drive auto on sealed surfaces, as well as the usual 2-wheel drive, 4 high and 4 low.
Ford has very cleverly layered the Ranger lineup so that each successive model grade gives you just enough toys that you want to go to the next one and then the next one. Over the XLT, the Sport gets leather accented seats, 8-way power adjustable driver's seat, 6-way manually adjustable passenger seat, wireless phone charging and an off-road screen in here, which I'll show you in a minute. Add the $900 touring pack and you get an integrated trailer brake controller, 360-degree parking camera, puddle lamp mirrors and zone lighting. I've got to say though, you do miss out on some cool gear by not stretching to the Wildtrak, such as powered and heated front seats, ambient lighting, park assist, pop-out cup holders on each side and an extra glove box up here. The Wildtrak also has a 12-inch central screen rather than the 10.1 of the Sport, but it doesn't actually make a huge amount of difference.
You still get all the goodies like wireless smartphone mirroring, digital radio, sat-nav, voice activation and embedded modem and the Ford Pass Connect app.
In fact, if you expand CarPlay, it actually ends up being larger than on the bigger Wildtrak screen, and you can also customise these shortcuts. Now, there are a lot of functions in here. Everything from off-road mode and diff locks to zone lighting to display brightness. You can even do some drawings. But the size and speed of the screen, plus the fact that it's pretty intuitively laid out, makes it pretty easy to find your way around.
If you want the safest ute around, then the Ranger is the one for you. It has 9 airbags and the full suite of active safety gear, including auto emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane assist, blind spot monitoring and much more.
There's a decent amount of space here in the back as well as rear air vents and fold down centre armrest with a couple of cup holders and also a 12-volt outlet rather than the USB port of the Wildtrak. Biggest shortcoming though is probably that the door bottle holders are on the small side.
One handy feature of the previous Ranger that you won't currently find in the new one is a 240-volt outlet. We do expect to see it back in the new Ranger at some point, but there's currently no word on when that will be. Another useful trick is the ability to flip up the rear seat to store larger items or hide things in the secret storage area.
Ford hasn't actually revealed official tray dimensions for the new Ranger yet, but our tape measure says it's basically 1.5 metres square and about 500 millimetres deep with 1.2 metres between the wheel arches, which is enough to accommodate a standard Euro-sized pallet.
There are 6 tie-down points and a 12-volt outlet, but obviously it's missing the powered roller tonneau of the Wildtrak. On the flip side, that means there's more space to carry stuff.
So now you know what a Ranger Sport is, let's get behind the wheel and see how it drives. I'll start on the road and then we'll find some unsealed surface and then finally some rougher stuff to see how this new Ranger performs. On the road, by dual cab standards at least, the answer is very, very well. When fitted with this V6 diesel, the big thing that stands out is the Ranger's refinement. This engine is smooth and quiet and powerful, though it doesn't necessarily feel as quick as the output suggests. Nevertheless, it's a great engine, and the 10-speed automatic gearbox does a good job of shuffling through all those ratios and picking the right one of its own accord. You can make manual selections, but to do so you've got to use these fiddly buttons on the side of the shifter which don't work very well. Speaking of, it's all too easy to put this E-shifter in park instead of reverse, though you do kind of get used to it. And it does have this cool party trick of if you stop the engine with its gearbox still in drive, it'll put itself in park. Speaking of tech, as mentioned earlier, this new Ranger has masses of active safety gear, and in general, it's pretty unobtrusive. I haven't got any of those phantom collision alerts, but the lane keep assist does frequently interject. It's never a nice feeling having the steering wrestle in your hands, and part of the problem is that this new Ranger takes up a lot of real estate. Remember that they've widened the tracks by 50mm, and that means that the wheels are closer to the edge of the road than ever. Happily, you can turn the assistance off. That aside, everything else is really pretty good. The steering in particular is very, very nice. So much more direct than anything else in the class. Makes it a lot easier to place the car accurately. The unladen ride can be pretty rough, seemingly more so than the Wildtrak I had last week, but I think that's just placebo. And again, by the standards of the segment, it's still quite comfortable, soaking up larger highway bumps very easily. Fuel economy will obviously depend on how heavy your right foot is, how much time you spend in traffic and whether you're towing or not, but in a mix of conditions I'm averaging just over 9 litres per 100k, which isn't too far off the 8.4 litre claim. Another big change for this new Ranger is the ability to run in permanent four-wheel drive. Now I know that's not exactly groundbreaking technology, but on slippery surfaces like this, it is a big advantage. Despite the fact that it says four-wheel drive on the back, you can still run it in two-wheel drive, but with 600 Newton meters available, it's very easy to lose traction on wet or in particular unsealed roads. Selecting four-wheel drive is as simple as pushing this button, or it will select automatically depending on your drive mode. But for more info on that, let's find some more challenging terrain. In addition to the standard drive modes, which are normal, eco, slippery and towing, the Sport scores a couple of extra off-road modes, sand and mud/ruts. Now given where we are, I've selected the mud setting, which automatically adjusts a heap of parameters. It engages 4 high and the rear diff lock, backs off the traction control and adjusts the throttle and the ABS. The off-road screen also uses a 360-degree camera to show me any tricky obstacles I might not be able to see, as well as showing me the pitch and roll of the vehicle. Now all these gizmos are no good if you've got unsuitable tyres, which is where these optional all-terrains come in. Now Goodyear Wranglers aren't the most aggressive things around, but they're certainly a lot better out here than the highway spec rubber on some other utes. If you're a hardcore off-roader, you're going to want to still modify the Ranger further, lift kit, big tyres, winch, etc. But even in standard guise, this thing's going to take you a long way off the beaten track. It's got steel underbody protection and weighed up to 800mm, and the 50mm wheelbase stretch improves both approach and departure angles. So the downside is that the ramp over angle suffers. Ugh. So watch those side steps.
All in all, the new Ranger Sport is a very impressive machine. It excels in virtually every scenario in which you could reasonably expect it to. But if you've watched or read any Ranger reviews, chances are you knew that already. The question here is whether the Sport is the one to get.
I'm not sure. If you do go for the Sport, and plenty of people are, then you're getting a really good package, no doubt. But the Wildtrak is tantalisingly close. You could forego the V6 diesel and get a 2-litre Wildtrak for the same money, but the extra $3.5 for that V6 flagship does feel like good value. I know it's easy to spend other people's money, but you get a lot of extra good gear and you'll probably get the money back when it comes time to sell. Therefore, my advice would be, if you can get the Wildtrak, do it. But if you can't quite make the stretch, then the Sport's a pretty good second option.